Hello everyone, so this is the hour 2 of rotational, and in this hour we are going to talk about cross product, how to write torque, what is mechanical equilibrium and what is toppling. Now beta, here the most important thing is mechanical equilibrium, but to do mechanical equilibrium you need to understand how to write torque. So we will do more than 25 questions in this particular hour to understand how to write torque, and I will try to make sure that you are as fast at writing torque as I am. So without wasting time, let's start today's hour. But first of all, we will talk about cross product. So what is cross product? Let's say we have got two vectors, vector A and vector B, such that the angle between these two vectors is theta. Now the magnitude of A cross B is given by magnitude of vector A into magnitude of vector B into sine of the angle between them. So this is the magnitude of A cross B. Remember that when we are doing cross product, the output is a vector quantity. So it will have both magnitude as well as direction. We find the magnitude using the formula magnitude of vector A into magnitude of vector B into sine of the angle between them. And to find the direction, we use the right hand thumb rule. So if let's say the angle between the two vectors, the angle theta is 0 or 180 degree, then we know that sine 0 is 0 as well as sine 180 is 0. So remember that if two vectors are parallel, the angle between them is 0. If the two vectors are anti-parallel, the angle between them is 180 degree. So if two vectors are parallel or two vectors are anti-parallel, then sine 0 will be 0 or sine 180 will be 0. So you can say for parallel vector or anti-parallel vector, the magnitude of cross product comes out to be 0. For parallel vectors or anti-parallel vectors, the magnitude of cross product comes out to be 0. So the magnitude of A cross B comes out to be 0. To determine the direction, we use right hand thumb rule. So direction of A cross B is found using right hand thumb rule. What does the right hand thumb rule say? If I have given you A cross B, align the fingers of right hand in the direction of vector A and then curl the fingers of right hand in direction of vector B. While doing so, the direction in which your thumb point is the direction of A cross B. So if you need to find the direction of A cross B, align the finger of right hand in the direction of vector A and then curl the fingers of right hand in direction of vector B. While doing so, the direction in which your thumb point is the direction of A cross B. If you don't know how to do cross product beta, I will suggest go to the first 6 hour where we have proved out cross product, because the direction is really important, not for this particular chapter but for the chapter of magnetism. So moving on, I taught you guys back then there is something called vector circle. Remember that till the time you have to move on this circle clockwise, everything remains positive, but when you have to move anti-clockwise, things start becoming negative. So if I ask you what is I cap cross I cap, sir, I cap cross I cap, both are parallel vector, that has to be 0. What is j cap cross j cap? J cap towards y cross j cap, both are parallel vectors, cross product has to be 0. And similarly k cap cross k cap coming out of the screen towards you guys, that cross product is also 0. So remember beta, I cap cross I cap is 0, j cap cross j cap is 0, k cap cross k cap is 0. Now if you need to find, so I cap cross I cap is 0 vector. Next is, what is I cap cross j cap? If you have to go from I to j via the shortest path, you will go clockwise. Till the time you move clockwise on this circle, everything is positive. So remember that I cap cross j cap is k cap. Next, what is I cap cross k cap? To go from I to k, you have to go anti-clockwise. When on the vector circle you have to move anti-clockwise, you get negative output. So I cap cross k cap gives you minus j cap. So the output is minus j cap. Next, what is j cap cross j cap? So sir, j cap cross j cap is a 0 vector. It has got no magnitude. It's a null vector. So j cap cross j cap is a null vector. What is j cap cross k cap? So going from j to k on this vector circle, you have to go clockwise. If you are going clockwise, so you get j cross k to be plus I cap. So j cap cross k cap is plus I cap. Next, what is j cap cross I cap? So going on this vector circle from j to I, you have to move anti-clockwise. If you are going anti-clockwise, so you get j cross I to be minus k. J cross I to be minus k. Next, what is k cap cross k cap? Sir, k cap cross k cap, parallel vector. Their cross product has to be a null vector. What is k cap cross I cap. So going from K to I on this vector circle, you are going clockwise, you are going clockwise, you are in the circle of positivity, you will get plus J cap. And what is K cap cross J cap? You have to go anti-clockwise, so you will get minus I cap. So this is all I will say you need to know right now for cross product. But again speaking, the direction of cross product is super duper important. So beta, please go and revise it before we reach the topic of magnetism. Okay, moving on. A question for practice. There are two vectors, 4i cap plus 3j cap minus 2k cap and I cap plus 3j cap minus 4k cap, and we need to find their cross product. What to do? Sir, the same thing we used to do in childhood. Multiply them term by term. So you will say 4i cross I. So take the 4 outside. So you will say the first term is 4i cross I. Similarly, the second term will be 4i 3j. 4 into 3, 12. So that becomes 12 times I cross j. The third term, 4i minus 4k. 4 into minus 4, minus 16. So you get minus 16 times I cross k. Next term, 3j cross I. So 3 into 1, 3. 3 times j cross I. Next term, 3j cross 3j. So take outside 9 times j cross j. Next 3j cross minus 4k minus 12 times j cross k. So keep on multiplying term by term individually as you used to do in your childhood. Once you do it, you will get this big result. Okay, so 4 times of I cross I, then 4 into 3, 12 times of I cross j, then 4 into minus 4, minus 16 times of I cross k, then 3 into 1, 3 times of j cross I, then 3 into 3, 9 times of j cross j, then 3 into minus 4, minus 12 times of j cross k, and keep on doing it for every term. Now we know that the magnitude of I cross I, j cross j and k cross k, this has to be equals to 0. And for rest of them, we can use the vector circle. I can say that I cross j will be plus k cap. I cross k, you have to go from I to k, you have to go anti-clockwise. So I cross k will be minus j cap. Similarly, beta, j cross I will be minus k cap, and you can substitute each term. Once you substitute them, you will get 4 times a null vector because I cross I is 0. 12 times I cross j gives you k, and you can substitute all the values. Once you have substituted, this term is 0, this term is 0, this term is 0. Now you have got 12k cap and here minus 3k cap. 12k cap minus 3k cap gives you 9k cap. Similarly, you have got bachcho minus 12i cap and plus 6i cap. Minus minus becomes plus. So you get minus 6i cap. And similarly, you can do for k. Once you have done this, you can write the final answer minus 6i cap plus 14j cap plus 9k cap. You can check the calculation pausing the video here. So you should know how to write the cross product of two vectors. Moving on to the next and the rock star of this particular hour, that is torque. So let's talk about torque. Sir, what is torque? Beta, what is force? Sir, force is which moves thing. Torque is what rotates thing. To move things, to accelerate things, you have to apply a net force. Similarly, to rotate things or to change their angular velocity, you have to apply a torque. So remember that torque is analogous to force for rotational motion. Just like to change the velocity of a body, you need a force. Similarly, to change the angular velocity of a body, you need a torque. So torque is analogous to force for rotational motion. But how do we write torque? What is the mathematical definition? So let's say there is a point A and a force is acting on point A. The force is given by vector F. Now, how do we write the torque of this force about a point O? Sir, we don't write force about a point, but we write torque about a point. Beta, we don't write displacement about a point, but we write angular displacement about a point. Na? We don't write velocity about a point. We can write relative velocity about a point, but we always write angular velocity about a point. Remember that question where I said that if the angular velocity about the center of circle is omega, then about one point on the periphery it is omega by 2. Similarly, angular displacement depends upon the choice of reference. So don't be so perplexed that why do we write torque about a point. It is defined that way because it is useful that way. So we say that the torque of a force about a point O is given by R cross F. Now you need to understand here what is R. Beta, R is the position vector of the point of application of force. R is the position vector of the point of application of force with respect to the point about which you wish to write the torque. Once more, R is the position vector of the point of application of force with respect to the point about which you wish to write the torque. And here F is the force vector, the force whose torque you wish to write. So we will say torque is a vector quantity. So how do you know torque is a vector quantity? Beta, you are getting it from cross product. The cross product of two vectors gives you a vector output. So R cross F gives you a vector output, and that vector is called a torque. So torque is a vector quantity. First thing. Second, R is the position vector of point of application of force with respect to the point about which torque is being written. Okay, so R is the position vector of point of application of force with respect to the point about which torque is being written. The next point, F is the force whose torque you wish to write. And the last point which I say you must remember, torque is analogous to force for rotational motion. Torque is just like force but for rotational motion. In translational motion, you need a force to accelerate. Here, you need a torque to provide the angular acceleration. So, moving on, and let's talk more about torque. So, let's say we know that torque is given by R cross F. So, we can say magnitude of torque equals to magnitude of R into magnitude of F into sine of the angle between them. I have just told you, if you have got two vectors, vector A and vector B, given that the angle between the vectors is 0 or 180 degree, the magnitude of their cross product will be 0. Similarly, if R and F, if the position vector and force vector are parallel or anti-parallel, the theta will be 0 or 180 degree and their cross product will be 0. So you will say if theta is 0 or 180 degree, then the magnitude of torque comes out to be 0. So visualize it like this. If let's say there is a point O and there is another point, let's say A, on which a force acts. Now if the force vector and the position vector are parallel, the angle between them will be 0. If the angle between them is 0, then you say that the torque produced by this particular force has a 0 magnitude. So the torque of this force will be 0 given that theta is 0. Or if theta becomes 180, so if let's say there is a point O about which you are trying to write the torque of a force acting on a point A such that the position vector and the force vector are antiparallel. If the position vector and the force vector are anti-parallel, then the angle between two vectors, the angle between two vectors is the angle between them when they are joined tail to tail. So the angle between them will be 180 degree. Sine 180 is 0, so the torque is 0. So remember that if the force is parallel to position vector or the force is anti-parallel to position vector, then the torque of the force is 0. So how to write torque? And this is really important. So be 100% attentive. Let's say at a point A, a force F acts and the position vector of this point A about the point about which you are trying to write the torque is R. We know that if the angle between the force vector and the position vector is theta, sir, how do you find this angle theta? Better see, the angle between two vectors is the angle between them when they are joined tail to tail. Move this vector F and join its tail to R. So you will say that this angle is theta. So the angle between two vectors is the angle between them when they are joined tail to tail. So what does this theta represent here? The angle between R and F vector. So you will say the magnitude of torque equals to magnitude of R into magnitude of F into sine of the angle between them. The magnitude of torque equals to magnitude of R into magnitude of F into sine of the angle between them. You can even think of the magnitude of torque to be equals to magnitude of R into magnitude of F sine theta. Now what is the meaning of magnitude of F sine theta? You can break down this vector into two components. The component along the position vector R will be F cos theta and the component perpendicular to position vector will be F sine theta. So what is the meaning of magnitude of F sine theta? What is the meaning of magnitude of F sine theta? Magnitude of F sine theta represents the component of the force perpendicular to R. magnitude of F sin theta represents the component of force perpendicular to R. So we can write torque as, the magnitude of torque can be written as length times force perpendicular. The magnitude of torque can be written as length times force perpendicular. Length times force perpendicular. So if there is a point, and let's say at this point a force is acting, let's call F, and this point is at distance d from another point. If the angle made by the force with the position vector is theta, you can break down the force into component F cos theta, F sin theta. So the torque can be written as length times force perpendicular, the component of force perpendicular to the line joining the point of application of force and the point about which you wish to write the torque. This is one way. This is really helpful. Length times force perpendicular. But I like one more way, and this way students do not usually use, and it is equally important. I will explain it through some example that why this second method is also equally important. Now let's say at the point A, a force F is acting, and the position vector of point A with respect to O is given by R. The angle between the position vector and the force vector is theta. Sir, why are you taking this angle as theta? Better rejoin the vectors in tail to tail fashion. The angle between two vectors is the angle between them when they are joined tail to tail. Now you can say the magnitude of torque is given by magnitude of R into magnitude of F into sine of the angle between them. Now bachcho, rather than taking sine theta with F, this time take the sine theta with R and write the magnitude of torque equals to magnitude of R sine theta into the magnitude of F. Now what does R sine theta represents? So you will say, sir, if this angle is theta, this angle also have to be theta. So what does R sine theta represents? So if you think of this length and visualize this particular right angle triangle, you will say, sir, this length has to be R sine theta. So if let's say force acts in this particular direction, we use a term that is called line of action of force. So extend the line of action of force, that is the line along which the force acts, and then drop a perpendicular from the point on the line. This length is called the length perpendicular. So how to use the second method? Extend the line of force, then drop a perpendicular. This perpendicular distance is called length perpendicular. And we can say that torque equals to force times the length perpendicular. Torque equals to force times the length perpendicular. So we can write torque in two ways, either length times force perpendicular, or we can write torque as force times length perpendicular, and it is super duper easy. We can write torque as force times length perpendicular, and to find the length perpendicular, extend the line of action of force. Once you have extended the line of action of force, drop a perpendicular, and that distance will give you the length perpendicular. So do not worry, we are going to practice so many questions today, 20-25 questions, that you will become super awesome in torque. Just stay tuned, it's easy. So moving on, the first example, a force of 4 I cap plus 2 j cap Newton acts at a position coordinate 3, 4. A force of 4 I cap plus 2 j cap Newton acts at position coordinate of 3, 4. Find the torque of this force about the origin. So you can think of the xy axis. At the position coordinate 3, 4. So x coordinate 3, y coordinate 4, x coordinate 3 and y coordinate 4. At a point, a force is acting. This force is 4 I cap plus 2 j cap. So 4 along the x-axis and 2 along the y-axis. And we need to write the torque of this force about origin 0, 0. So as to write the torque, you need two things. You need R, you need F. You will say that the position vector of the point of application of this force will be nothing but 3 I cap plus 4 j cap. Now once you know what is the position coordinate 3 I cap plus 4 j cap, and once you know what is the force vector, simply take their cross product, you will get the answer. So you will say, sir, torque equals to R cross F. The position vector in this case is 3 I cap plus 4 j cap, and the force vector is 4 I cap plus 2 j cap. So simply take their cross product. So torque will be equals to R cross F. We know the vector circle. We know how to find I cross J, J cross I, K cross I, K cross J, everything. So we will say torque equals to R cross F. Substitute the value of R and F. So you get 3I cap plus 4J cap cross 4I cap plus 2J cap. Now just take cross product term by term. So you say 3I cap cross 4I cap. So that gives you 12 times I cross I, so I cross I becomes 0. Similarly, the next term 3I cap plus 2J cap. So that becomes 6 times I cross J, and we know that beta I cross J gives you K. So this becomes 6K cap. Next term 4J cap cross 4I cap. So that will be 16 times J cross I. Beta J cross I is minus K, so you get minus 16K cap. Next term 4J cross 2J, so J cross J is 0. So overall you get plus 6K cap, minus 16K cap. The answer has to be minus 10K cap. That's how easy taking cross product is. So you will write down each term and then you will substitute what is I cross J, J cross I, J cross J. Once you have substituted, you get I cross I is 0, J cross J is 0. So what you are left with 6 times I cross J, which is 6K cap, and 16 times J cross I, which is minus 16K cap. So the overall result comes out to be minus 10K cap. Now this particular question is important so that you should know how to write the cross product and you should have a practice on it. But without wasting time, now let's start the fun part. A simple question is, there is a rod of length L and we have applied a force F at some angle theta. We need to write the torque of this force about O. We need to write the torque of this force about O. So what is the torque of this force about O? So you'll say, sir, I know that torque equals to force times length perpendicular or length times force perpendicular. So either you can break down this force into two components, F cos theta and F sin theta. Now think of the hinge at O and think of the force of F cos theta. F cos theta is trying to elongate the length of the rod. It is trying to stretch the rod, while F sin theta is trying to rotate the rod. Now, if I ask you, look at the figure and tell me this F sin theta is trying to rotate the rod anti-clockwise or clockwise? So this F sin theta is trying to rotate the rod anti-clockwise. This F sin theta is trying to rotate the rod anti-clockwise. So you can simply say, so torque has to be length times force perpendicular. Length is L, force perpendicular is F sin theta. So torque has to be FL sin theta. This is one way. Another way, which I personally use a lot, and this becomes super useful in some particular question. Here, I would have used length times force perpendicular, but you should know the other method as well. We can even write torque as force times length perpendicular. Sir, how do we take the length perpendicular? Extend the line of action of force. Then, sir, drop a perpendicular and tell me what is the length of that perpendicular. So, sir, if this angle is theta, this angle will also be theta. So the length of the perpendicular will be nothing but L sin theta. Since the length of perpendicular is L sin theta, we can write the torque of same force about O as force times length perpendicular. So see, you again got FL sin theta. So last time you got length times force perpendicular, L times F sin theta. This time you got F times L sin theta. Both are one and the same thing. So we can say, we can break down this force into component F sin theta, F cos theta. F cos theta is trying to stretch the rod, elongate it, while F sin theta is trying to turn it anti-clockwise. So torque equals to force perpendicular times length. So that will be simply equals to FL sin theta. End of discussion. Let's see the next example. There is a force F acting at coordinate A, B. There is a force F acting at coordinates A, B. Our mission is a force F acts at a point A, B along the x-axis as shown. What is the torque of this force about origin? So how will you write the torque of this force about the origin? So sir, we can use length times force perpendicular or force times length perpendicular. Now beta, in some questions, one way becomes way easier than the other. So visualize using both. What is the mission? Sir, the mission is to write the torque of F about O. Either I can use length times force perpendicular. So I will have to find this length. That is easy. D will be equals to under root of A square plus B square. Then I will have to find this angle theta. Then I will have to find F sin theta and then I will say the answer is D into F sine theta. No doubt you will get the same answer as you will get from the other method. The other method is, or you can do force times length perpendicular. To use force times length perpendicular, what to do? Sir, extend the line of action of force. So here, bachcho, extend the line of action of force. This is the line of action of force. How much is the force F? Once you have thought of the line of action of force, drop a perpendicular from the point about which you wish to write the cross product. So you have extended the line of action of force. You have dropped a perpendicular. The length of this perpendicular will be B. So how will you write the torque? The torque will be simply equals to force times length perpendicular. So the torque will be equal to Fp. End of discussion. So you can say torque equals to force times length perpendicular or length times force perpendicular. Here it will be beneficial for us to answer quicker to use force times length perpendicular. So better extend the line of action of force. When you extend the line of action of force and drop a perpendicular, this length comes out to be nothing but the y coordinate of this point, which is B. So you can simply say, using torque equals to force times length perpendicular, I can say that torque equals to simply Fp. Nothing else. So easy, right? So let's move on. A projectile of mass m is projected with a speed v at an angle theta with the horizontal. Determine the torque of the force of gravity about the point of projection. When? So a particle is projected with a speed v at an angle theta with the horizontal. You need to determine the torque of force of gravity about the point of projection when the particle is at case 1 at its maximum height, case 2 just about to land, and case 3 at any time t. So visualize the trajectory of the particle. What is the mission? Sir, the mission is to write torque. Of which force? Of the force of gravity. In which case? Sir, we are solving the case 1 when the particle is at maximum height. Okay. So when the particle is at maximum height, the force of gravity will be acting downward. What are we trying to do? We are trying to write the torque of the force of gravity. About which point? About the point of projection. Okay, so this is, let's say, O, the point about which we need to write the torque, and this is the point A at which the force is acting. How to write the torque? So you have taught us two ways. Either we can use length times force perpendicular, or we can use force times extend the line of action of force times length perpendicular. Now tell me which method will be easier. Sir, force times length perpendicular will be easy. I know that the force is mg, done, and the length perpendicular will be half the range. So I can simply say that in case 1, when the particle is at maximum height, extending the line of action of force and then making a perpendicular drop from the point about which you wish to write the torque, you can find force times length perpendicular. The force is mg and the length perpendicular is r by 2. So the torque will be simply equal to mg into r by 2. And sir, we know the formula for range. Range is v square sine 2 theta by g. Simply in place of r, write down v square sine 2 theta by g. So you get mg times v square sine 2 theta by g, and see, there was already a 2, that 2 has been written here. So the g and g will get cancelled. So what you get is mv square sine 2 theta by 2. mv square sine 2 theta by 2. The next part. When the projectile is just about to land. So what is the mission? The mission is to write the torque of the force of gravity. So the particle is just about to land. This is the point A. And there is a downward force mg. And we wish to write the torque of this force of gravity about the point of projection. Let's call it O. When the projectile is just about to land. How to write this torque? Sir, easy. Torque equals to force times length perpendicular. Here the length perpendicular will be equal to the entire range. So the torque will be simply equals to mg into r. So the torque equals to mgr. We know that r equals to v square sine 2 theta by g from our study of projectile. So you simply get mg into v square sine 2 theta by g. Cancel out g and g. You get mv square sine 2 theta. Now the third part of question. What is the torque of the force of gravity at any time t? What is the torque of force of gravity about the point of projection at any time t? So sir, you have projected the projectile. It is undergoing this parabolic path. You want the torque of force of gravity about the point of projection at any time t. Any time t. How to write the torque at any time t? So let's say at any time t projectile is here, not at maximum height, not just about to land, at a random point. Now the force of gravity will be downward. At any time t, can you guys tell me what will be this length perpendicular? Extend the line of action of force and drop a perpendicular, that will be the length perpendicular. We can write torque as length times force perpendicular or as force times length perpendicular, and to use force times length perpendicular you should extend the line of action of force and then drop a perpendicular. So what will be this length at any time t? So if projected with a speed v at some angle theta, during the entire journey, as there is no acceleration in horizontal direction, the horizontal velocity remains constant. The horizontal velocity during the entire journey is v cos theta. So at any time t, till any time t, the horizontal displacement will be v cos theta into t. So you can say, sir, till any time t, the length perpendicular is v cos theta into t. So the torque has to be simply equals to mg into v cos theta into t. This will be the torque of force of gravity about the point of projection at any time t. So now let's talk about the super duper important topic of mechanical equilibrium. When do we say that a body is in mechanical equilibrium? A body is said to be in mechanical equilibrium when the net force acting on the body is zero, as well as the net torque acting on the body is zero. So when the net force acting on the body is zero, as well as the net torque acting on the body is zero. So let's start doing mechanical equilibrium. So for a body to be in mechanical equilibrium, the net force acting on the body has to be zero. Now somebody might ask, the net force has to be zero in which direction? For a body to be in mechanical equilibrium, the net force has to be zero in all direction. The second condition is that the net torque acting on the body should also be zero. Now somebody might ask, sir, you define torque about a point. Yes. So when you say that for a body to be in mechanical equilibrium, about which point the net torque should be zero? The net torque on the body should be zero about all point in space. So you can write down the torque about any point in space and balance out the torque. The torque which is trying to turn the body clockwise has to be same in the magnitude as the torque which is trying to turn the body anti-clockwise. So let's start solving simple question based on mechanical equilibrium. So the first question, there is a person of mass 50 kg standing on a ramp at a distance of 1 meter from the hinge, from the suspension point, and there is another person of mass m at a distance of 0.5 meter, half the distance from hinge. Question is, if the system is in equilibrium, find m. So now here, if we look only on the platform part, if the platform part is in equilibrium, then the net force on the platform has to be zero, as well as the net torque on the platform has to be zero. Assuming the platform to be massless, what are the forces acting on the platform? Since this person of mass 50 kg is in equilibrium, the platform must be applying a force of 500 Newton on the person upward. Since the platform applies a force of 500 Newton on the person upward, the person applies a force of 500 Newton on the platform downward. Similarly, the second person of mass m, if the whole system is in equilibrium, then the second person of mass m is also in equilibrium. So the platform must be applying a force mg upward on this person. So this person must be applying a downward force of mg on the person. Also, the support here will apply some force on the platform. And let's say the force applied by this support on the platform is F. Now, this distance at which the force of 500 Newton will act is given as 1 meter from the point of support, and this distance is given as 0.5 meter. Now, when we say that a body is in equilibrium, then the net force on the body has to be zero, as well as the net torque on the body has to be zero. The net torque on the body has to be 0 about which point? About any point. If we look about the point of suspension, there will be no torque because of this force on the suspension. Why? So torque is R cross F, and for this force F now, R is 0. It passes through the same point. So since R is 0, the torque of this force F is 0. Now just forget everything, visualize the plank, the support point, and this force of 500. This force of 500 is trying to turn the whole plank anti-clockwise, while this force of mg is trying to turn the plank clockwise. If the system is in equilibrium, then anti-clockwise torque has to be same as clockwise torque. The anti-clockwise torque because of this force of 500 Newton will be force times length, because the force and length are already perpendicular. Length and force are perpendicular. Moreover, the torque of the force of mg will be equals to mg into 0.5. Substituting the value of g as 10, we get 0.5 into 10. This whole term becomes 5. So your m comes out to be 500 by 5, and 500 by 5 comes out to be 100 kg. So this has to be the mass of the person. So you can say for equilibrium, the torque because of this person's weight has to be 50 into 10, the weight into 1. And the torque because of the weight of this mass m will be m into g, which is 10 into 0.5. Balancing out the torque because of the person and because of the person of mass 50 kg and the person of mass m, we can say that m has to be equals to 100 kg. Once more, sir, why have you not considered the torque because of the force by the support? Because beta, I am writing torque of both the forces about the point of support. The force at the point of support passes through the point of support. So there will be no torque because of this force, right? So you will say mass has to be equals to 100 kg for equilibrium. Moving on. Determine the value of F for equilibrium in each case. Now this is where the fun starts. If you haven't understood the last example, do not worry. Just keep focusing. We will do more than 20 questions, and believe me, you will become really quick at writing torque once this is over. So keep your focus up. Determine the value of F for equilibrium in each case. The first case, there is a person of mass 100 kg standing at distance of 1 meter from the plank, and a second force F is being applied at a distance of 0.25. Question is, what has to be the value of F so that the whole system is in equilibrium? So you will say, if we balance the torque about the point of support, if the support has some force here, let's say F dash, its torque about this point will be 0. So now there will be two torques. The torque of the weight of the person of mass 100 kg and the torque due to the force F. Now both of them are trying to turn the plank in opposite sense. For equilibrium, the torque because of the weight of this person, which is 100 mass into 10 weight into 1. This anti-clockwise torque has to be equals to clockwise torque due to the force, and that will be F into 0.25. So you get for equilibrium 100 into 10 into 1. The torque because of the weight of the 100 kg person has to be equals to F into 0.25. So you get 1000 equals to F into 0.25, or the force has to be equals to 1000 by 0.25, and 1000 by 0.25 is as good as 1000 into 4. So the force comes out to be 4000 Newton. Easy. Let's do more. If you haven't got it, do not worry. Doing more problems will make you understand how to write torque in each case. Next example. There is a rod which is hinged at its end, and you are applying a force F at the end. Question is, determine the value of F for the rod to be in equilibrium. So about the hinge, the torque of the force applied by the hinge will be 0. So you do not need to write this torque. Now which other forces are acting on the rod? Sir, there will be a force of gravity that can be assumed to be acting at the center of mass, and the center of mass is at distance L by 2 from the hinge. Now this force of gravity will try to turn the rod clockwise, while this force F will try to turn the rod anti-clockwise. So now we have a force of gravity which is trying to turn the rod clockwise and a force F which is trying to turn it anti-clockwise. For equilibrium, both the torque should cancel out each other. The clockwise torque because of the weight will be mg into L by 2. The anti-clockwise torque which is trying to turn it anti-clockwise because of this force F will be equals to F into L. So you will say mg into L by 2 equals to F into L, or beta F has to be equals to mg by 2. So you will say, making the torque balance equation about the point of suspension, about the hinge, you will say for equilibrium mg into L by 2, the weight providing the clockwise torque has to be equals to F into L, the external force providing the anti-clockwise torque. So once you cancel out L and L, you get that F equals to mg by 2. Let's see the next example. Now, this time we are not applying force perpendicular to length. We are applying force at some angle. Question is, what has to be the value of F so that the torque is balanced? So you will say, because of the weight mg, there will be a clockwise torque. It is trying to turn it clockwise. And there will be one component of this force, F sine theta, which will try to turn it anti-clockwise. There will be another component of this force, F cos theta, but this F cos theta will just try to increase the length of the rod. It won't try to turn it. F sine theta is the one which will try to turn it. So you will say the vertical component of this force, F sine theta, tries to turn it anti-clockwise, while the weight of the rod tries to turn it clockwise. For equilibrium, mg into L by 2, the clockwise torque, has to be equals to F sine theta into L, the anti-clockwise torque. Cancelling out L and L, you can say that F equals to mg by 2 sine theta. Okay. Let's see the next example. Hope you are getting it. Now, here you can see there are too many forces and no rod. There is a wheel. What to do? Shan, keep calm. First of all, the question is saying what has to be the value of F for the system to be in equilibrium. Now on this disc, which is hinged at its center, there are multiple forces acting. Visualize that this force F is trying to turn it which way? This force F. Think of it one at a time. So sir, the force F is towards right. It will try to turn it clockwise. The force F is trying to turn the disc clockwise. What about the 20 Newton force? So it acts on the periphery, is downward. It is also trying to turn it clockwise. What about this 80 Newton force? Sir, this 80 Newton force will have two components. One, away from the hinge, that will just try to pull the disc down, and that will be 80 sine 60 or 80 root 3 by 2, that will be 40 root 3. And there will be another component tangentially, and that will be 80 cos 60, and cos 60 is half, so you will get 80 into half, that is 40 Newton. Now just think there is a disc hinged at the center and you are applying here a force of 40 Newton. This force of 40 Newton is trying to turn this disc clockwise or anti-clockwise. So you will say, sir, if I apply a force like this, it is trying to turn it clockwise. So verdict till now, F tries to turn it clockwise, 20 Newton tries to turn it clockwise, a component of 80 Newton along the tangential direction tries to turn it clockwise. And what about this 100 Newton, the fourth force? You will say, sir, this 100 Newton is trying to turn it. If I visualize the disc, and here I apply a tangential force of 100 Newton down, it will try to turn it anti-clockwise. So three forces are trying to turn it clockwise, while there will be one force of 100 Newton that will try to turn it anti-clockwise. If the body is in equilibrium, then the combined torque of these three forces, F, 20 and the tangential component of 80, balance out the torque of the force of 100 Newton. So we will say the clockwise torque because of these three forces, F, 20 and 80's component. So that will be, if we take the radius of the disc to be R, the torque of this force F will be Fr. The torque of the force of 20 Newton will be 20R. The torque of the component of 80 Newton, and we got that the component of 80 Newton in tangential direction is 80 cos 60. Cos 60 is half, so we get 40 Newton. So that becomes 40R. So all these three are clockwise torque. They support each other. While this 100 Newton, which also acts at distance R and whose torque will be 100R, because the length and the force are perpendicular, 100R, they balances out the sum of these clockwise torque. So bachcho, you can cancel out R. So you get F plus 60 equals to 100, or beta the force that has to be applied for the system to be in equilibrium is 40 Newton. So we will say for equilibrium, the clockwise torque has to be same as the anti-clockwise torque. The clockwise torque will be Fr due to this force plus 20R due to this force plus 80 cos 60R, 80 cos 60R because of this third force. So whole of this represents the net clockwise torque, and this has to be equal to the anti-clockwise torque, 100 into R. So on cancelling R and substituting the value of cos 60 as half, you get F comes out to be 40 Newton. Okay, let's see the next example. Here we have a triangle, equilateral triangle, and on this equilateral triangle we have applied force F1, F2, F3. What is the relationship between F1, F2 and F3 for the system to be in equilibrium? Now beta, be calm, think over it one at a time. Okay, so this is the equilateral triangular plate, hinged at the centroid. Okay, we are applying a force F1. Now first you have to answer two questions here. First, what is the torque of this force about the hinge? How to write the torque of this force about the hinge? Sir, torque is force times length perpendicular or length times force perpendicular. Here, extend the line of action of force. When you extend the line of action of force, drop a perpendicular, and let's call this perpendicular distance t. So the torque due to this force F1 will be F1t. Now visualize that this force is trying to turn it clockwise or anti-clockwise. So if I have a triangular plate hinged at the centroid and we apply a force here F1, so this force is trying to turn it clockwise. So the torque of F1 will be clockwise. Now let's talk about the torque of F2. So now only focus on F2, forget F1 and F3. Okay, F2 acts this way. So how to write the torque of F2 about the hinge? So sir, extend the line of action of force, and then find the distance perpendicular, let's say d. So the torque will be equals to F2d. This torque will be clockwise or anti-clockwise? Sir, if I just visualize the triangle, the centroid and the force. So this force is trying to turn it clockwise. So both bachon, F1 is trying to turn it clockwise as well as F2 is trying to turn it clockwise. Now let's talk about F3. Again, the same equilateral triangle, the force F3 and the hinge. Okay, so now F3 acts this way, and to write the torque, extend the line of action of force, write the distance perpendicular. So you will say the torque because of F3 will be F3 into d. So bachon, F1 and F2 provide clockwise torque, while F3 tries to turn it anti-clockwise. So we can say separation from the hinge is same for all the line of action of forces. Separation from hinge is same for all the line of action of forces. For F1, this is the perpendicular distance. For F2, this is the perpendicular distance. And for F3, this is the perpendicular distance. And let's say this distance is d. So let's call it d, d, d. Now we know that F1 and F2 are trying to turn it clockwise, while F3 is trying to turn it anti-clockwise. For the torque to be balanced, F1 plus F2 into d, or F1d plus F2d, which are trying to turn it clockwise, has to be equal to counter-clockwise torque, which will be F3d. So F1d plus F2d has to be equals to F3d, cancel out d, d, d. So you can say F1 plus F2 equals to F3. Now beta, sometimes in option, they will give you force F1 plus force F2 equals to force F3. No, this is wrong. Here I am just talking about the magnitude of force F1, F2 and F3. I am not at all saying that vector F1 plus vector F2 has to be equals to vector F3. I am not at all saying that. So we are not saying vector F1 plus vector F2 equals to vector F3. Here we have just found a correlation between the magnitude, not a correlation between the directions. So moving on to the next example. Now question is, determine the value of F for the rod to be in equilibrium. What has to be the force applied by this string? So you will say, sir, we have done this question already. About the hinge, the force of gravity will provide a clockwise torque, that will be mgl by 2, and the force because of this string will provide a counterclockwise torque, and that will be equals to F into L. So you can say for equilibrium, mg into L by 2 has to be equals to F into L, so F comes out to be mg by 2. The next example. Question is determine the value of F for the system to be in equilibrium. Now this time I want you to focus. Okay, so apart from the hinge, there are two more forces acting. The force of gravity that can be assumed to be acting at the center of mass mg, and the force of tension that is acting here. Now the hinge will surely apply some force, but since the force of hinge passes through hinge, the torque of this force must become 0, as we know that torque equals to R cross F. If you are measuring torque from the hinge itself, then the torque of the force applied by hinge on the rod about the hinge is 0, because beta R is 0. Once more, the torque of the force applied by hinge about the hinge is 0 because R is 0. Okay, so there will be torque only due to gravity and due to tension. How to write it? Beta, you know two methods to write torque. Okay, either use force times length perpendicular or length times force perpendicular. Here let's use length times force perpendicular for one. Now the distance at which the force of gravity acts from the point of suspension, that distance is L by 2. Now if this angle is theta, this angle will also be theta. The component of force of gravity that will try to turn the rod, that will be equals to mg sine theta. So length times force perpendicular, length times force perpendicular. So the torque because of the force of gravity will be mg sine theta into L by 2, or L by 2 times mg sine theta, length times force perpendicular. Now we know how to write the torque of the force of gravity about the hinge. How to write the torque due to the force of tension about the hinge? So you will say the force of tension acts at a distance L. If this angle is theta, then this angle is also theta. The component of the force perpendicular to the length will be equals to F sine theta. So the torque of this force F can be written as L into the force perpendicular, which is F sine theta. So the torque becomes L F sine theta. For equilibrium about hinge, the clockwise torque due to the force of gravity has to be equal to the anti-clockwise torque due to the force of tension. So you will say for equilibrium, mg into L by 2 sine theta, what I wrote was L by 2 times mg sine theta, has to be equal to FL sine theta. What I wrote was the length times force perpendicular F sine theta. So you can see bachcho, sine theta get cancelled. So your L and L also get cancelled. The force comes out to be simply mg by 2. So in both the cases, in first case as well as in second case, you got that the force has to be half of the weight. But sir, why? The line of action of both the forces have the distance in the ratio 1:2. If this distance is x, then this distance is 2x. Since the line of action of tension is at double the distance from hinge, that's why the force has to be half. So that has to be mg by 2. Let's practice more to make you stronger in writing torque quickly. Keep following. So the question goes like this. Okay. And now in this question, you need to find the value of tension. So there is this rod, and at the top you have connected a string. You need to find the value of tension. So the force of gravity, mg downward, provides the clockwise torque, while the force of tension provides the anti-clockwise torque. If you would have been present in a live class, I would have asked you in which way I should write the torque balance. Force times length perpendicular or length times force perpendicular. But since we are not there, I will do alternate methods in different questions. So here this time let's use force times length perpendicular. So extend the line of action of each force. On this rod, three forces are acting. Force by the hinge, the force of gravity, and the force of tension. There will be no torque because of force by the hinge. Why? Because R is 0. There will be torque due to force of gravity. Now forget everything. Forget the force of tension. Just visualize the rod hinged at the end and the force of gravity. This is trying to turn it clockwise. So this force of gravity is trying to turn it clockwise. How much will be the force? So sir, extend the line of action. This distance is L by 2. So this distance has to be equals to L by 2 sine theta. So the torque of the force of gravity clockwise will be mg into L by 2 sine theta. This will be the clockwise torque of force of gravity. What has to be the torque of force of tension? So you will use force times length perpendicular. But this tension doesn't act on rod, right? This force of tension is on the wall. We need to see the forces on the rod. So this tension force is on the rod. So this tension force is trying to turn it anti-clockwise. So how will you write the torque? Sir, extend the line of action of force. So this is the line of action of force. This is the hinge. We need to find the perpendicular distance of this line from the hinge. What will be this distance? So you will say, sir, this distance has to be simply equals to L cos theta. So this distance will be L cos theta. So the torque of the force of tension anti-clockwise will be TL cos theta. So the torque of the force of gravity has to be equal to torque of the force of tension. So you will get mg into L by 2 sine theta equals to T into L cos theta. Cancel out L and L. You get T equals to mg by 2 tan theta. Okay. So let's see it. So you will say for equilibrium mg into L by 2 sine theta. Extend the line of action of force. This distance is L by 2. So this distance will be L by 2 sine theta. Has to be equal to the torque of tension, which is T into L cos theta. This distance is L cos theta. Hence, we can cancel out L and T comes out to be mg by 2 tan theta. Okay, let's practice more even better question. So the question goes like, now the rod has a mass m, but we have placed one additional mass m at the end, and the tension acts at a distance of L by 4 from the other end. So one end is fixed. On the another end you have placed a mass m, as well as you have connected a string at a distance L by 4 from the other end. Question is, what has to be the value of T if the rod is in equilibrium? So you will say, sir, now on this rod, if the rod is in equilibrium, there are more forces. One will be the force by the hinge. Let's assume it upwards. One will be the force of gravity on the rod. Yes. One will be the force of tension on the rod. And since this mass is in equilibrium, the rod must be applying an upward force mg on the mass, and by Newton's third law, this mass will be applying a downward force of mg on the rod. So beta, that there will be total 4 forces on the rod. The force by the hinge, the force due to its own weight, the force of tension, and the force due to the weight of the block placed above it. Beta, I am just drawing the forces on the rod. So visualize only the rod, not the block. So due to the weight, the block applies a force mg. Due to its own weight, there is a force mg. Due to tension, there is a force up T, and there is this force by hinge. Now we have learned that when a body is in mechanical equilibrium, the net force is 0 as well as the net torque is 0. The net torque is 0 about any point. Here I am making the torque balance equation about the hinge. So the torque due to the force of the hinge about the hinge will be 0, sir, as R is 0. So its torque becomes 0. Now visualize that due to its own weight, the rod tries to turn clockwise. Due to the weight of the block placed above, it tries to go clockwise. So due to this force mg, both the forces are trying to turn it clockwise. While this tension is trying to turn it anti-clockwise. If the rod is in equilibrium, then the clockwise torque has to be equal to anti-clockwise torque. The clockwise torque, because of these two forces, will be mg into L by 2 plus mg into L, because their line of action are at distance L by 2 and L. And The third force of tension acts at a distance of 3L by 4 from hinge. So this has to be equals to T into 3L by 4. Once you have written this equation, game over. It is easy to solve from here, but you should master how to write the clockwise torque, anti-clockwise torque, and about which point you should do torque balance. Beta, I personally suggest to all kids, if in a question hinge is given, do torque balance about the hinge. If in a question hinge is given, do torque balance about the hinge. If the hinge is not given, you can do torque balance about center of mass or about the point from which maximum number of force passes. Because when you make the torque equation about the point through which maximum number of force passes, you have to write the torque due to least number of forces. We'll explain the second point once more, but let's now complete this question. So we can say for equilibrium, the clockwise torque has to be equals to anti-clockwise torque. So the torque due to the weight of the rod mgl by 2 plus the torque due to the weight of the block, the force by the block placed above it, will be mgl. These two clockwise torque balances out the anti-clockwise torque. So anti-clockwise torque due to tension will be T into 3L by 4. Sir, why haven't you taken distance as L by 4? The distance has to be taken from the hinge now. So 3L by 4. So you will get the clockwise torque equals to anti-clockwise torque. Once you have written this, game over. Beta, you can cancel out L, L and L. mg by 2 plus mg gives you 3mg by 2. And 3mg by 2 equals to 3t by 4. So cancelling out here, you get a 2. Cancel this t, 3. So you get t equals to 2mg. So the force of tension comes out to be 2mg. Let's practice more. So let's do some more important question on mechanical equilibrium. The first question, determine the tension in the strings in each case. So the first case, there is a rod of mass m and length L, and at both the end we have placed two strings. The tension in both the strings are given as T1 and T2, and we need to find both of them. So how to find T1 and T2? One way you can say is, sir, for the rod to be in equilibrium, the net force on the rod has to be 0 as well as the net torque on the rod has to be 0. The net force has to be 0 in which direction? All direction. The net torque has to be 0 about which point? Any point in space. So if you visualize all the forces acting on the rod, there will be a force of gravity downward trying to pull it down. There will be a force of tension T1 and there will be a force of tension T2. You can do torque balance about any point and you can do force balance in any direction. Since we know that the rod is in equilibrium, that's why the net force on the rod has to be 0. So the downward force of mg has to be equal to the sum of forces T1 and T2. So you can say mg equals to T1 plus T2. So this is the first equation from force balance. We should even do torque balance. Sir, torque balance about which point? Any point. Sir, can I do torque balance about this last point? Yes, we do. So you will say about this point, about the last point, but sir, there is no hinge. Do not worry, you can do torque balance about any point. So about this last point, you will say, sir, the torque of tension T1 is 0. Why? R is 0. The torque of the force of gravity will be, the force of gravity about this point is trying to turn it clockwise. So the torque of force of gravity will be mg into L by 2. While the torque of force of tension T2 will be T2 into L clockwise. So cancelling out L and L, you will get T2 equals to mg by 2. If you substitute T2 equals to mg by 2, then T1 equals to mg minus mg by 2, and mg minus mg by 2 is mg by 2. So beta, both T1 and T2 will be mg by 2, and you could have said, sir, just because of symmetry, I can say both the strings will support half weight. So sir, tomorrow, if they give me this case, that at distance, let's say L by 3 from both the ends, L by 3 from both the ends, we have placed two strings. So just by symmetry, you can say both the strings will be supporting half of the weight. So tension in both the strings has to be mg by 2, mg by 2. Just using pure symmetry, you can answer. So solution here, first equation of force, you will say T1 plus T2 has to be equals to mg. The second equation of torque balance, which I am making about this leftmost point, so I can say mg into L by 2 equals to T2 into L. Cancelling out L and L, you will write T2 equals to mg by 2. Once you know that T2 is mg by 2, better T1 also have to be mg by 2. Both of them will apply equal force. Both of them will support the weight equally. So both of them support half and half the weight. Okay. Next example. Now this time, One string is at the end while the other string is at a distance L by 3 from the end. Question is, what will be the tension in both the strings? So you will say, sir, there are three forces acting on this rod: the tension T1, the tension T2, and the weight mg. For equilibrium, we know that T1 plus T2 has to be equals to mg. Now, sir, we know that when the body is in mechanical equilibrium, you can make the torque equation about any point. So let's make the torque equation about the leftmost point. So do not think of the strings. Just focus on the forces acting on this rod. So there is T1, there is mg, and there is T2. The force T1 acts at the end. The force of mg acts at distance L by 2. And the force T2 acts at a distance 2L by 3. The clockwise torque due to the weight has to be equal to counterclockwise torque due to T2. So you will say mg into L by 2, mg into L by 2 equals to T2 into 2L by 3. So cancelling out L and L, you will get T2 equals to 3mg by 4. Once you have established that T2 has to be 3/4 of the weight, 3mg by 4, 3/4 of the weight, then beta T1 has to be 1/4 of the weight, mg by 4. So you can say from torque balance, mg into L by 2 equals to T2 into this length is 2L by 3. Okay. So on solving, cancelling out L and L, you get T2 equals to 3mg by 4. Once you know that T2 is 3/4 the weight, 3mg by 4, T1 has to be beta mg by 4. Okay. Now let's do one more question to understand better. Now let's say you have got this case. So one string is connected at the end and second string is connected at the center. So at distance L by 2 from the end. Now question is, what will be the tension in both the strings? So you will say, sir, see simply. We know that there are three forces acting, T1, T2 and mg. From the force balance equation, we can say T1 plus T2 has to be equals to mg. That same equation I have made in all three. From the torque balance about the left end, I can say the torque due to the weight, which is mg into L by 2, has to be same as the torque due to the tension T2, T2 into L by 2. So from torque balance, you can say mg into L by 2 equals to T2 into L by 2. Sir, L by 2 on both the side. Hey, so T2 is mg. So T2 equals to weight. If T2 equals to weight, then T1 has to be 0. So there will be no tension in the string on the left. The entire weight will be supported only by this string. So you get T2 equals to mg, hence T1 is 0. There will be no tension in the string on the left. Because beta, forget this string. I give you a rod and I ask you, suspend it using only one string and it should be in equilibrium. How will you suspend it? So you have to keep the rod horizontal, you have to keep it in equilibrium. So you must hinge it at its center. And when you fix it at the center, you can keep it in equilibrium, right? So this tension only supports the entire weight. So sir, why you have placed another string? I didn't place it. These type of question come in paper. The another string is here just for time pass. In that one, the tension will be 0. Okay. So T2 equals to mg, T1 equals to 0. Let's do two more questions on mechanical equilibrium before we close this topic. So a bar of mass m is balanced over two knives. So you took two knives and balanced a bar of mass m over it, separated by a distance d. So the separation between the two knives is d and you have placed a bar over it. Now question is, if the center of mass of the bar is at distance x from one of the knife, so center of mass is at distance x from one of the knife, find the normal force by the other knife. So these two knives must be applying some normal force. Let's say those normal forces are N1 and N2. From the force equation, I can say that N1 plus N2 has to be equals to mg. The sum of the force of normal has to be equals to weight of the bar. Now we can even apply the torque equation about one of the end. But before doing it, let's get a better looking diagram. So here we have got this bar The center of mass of the bar is at distance x from the left knife and both the knives are supporting the bar. So let's say they apply force N1 and N2. Our mission is to find N2. To find N2, simply make the torque equation about this point. Why? Sir, about this point, the torque of N1 will be 0. So the torque equation will contain only mg and N2. Now, about this last point, visualize these knives. Sorry, forget these knives. Visualize only the rod. So on this rod, about this point, we are writing the torque. The force of gravity acts at a distance x, and the force of second normal N2 acts at a distance t. So the clockwise torque provided by mgx has to be equals to anti-clockwise torque provided by N2, which will be N2t. So you will say the first equation of force N1 plus N2 has to be mg. And to find N2, which has been asked in question, it is sufficient to make only one equation, and that is the torque equation. So you will say, making torque equation about the point of application of N1, you will say mg into x, the clockwise torque, has to be equals to N2 into d, the anti-clockwise torque. So our mission is to find N2. So better you can say N2 has to be equals to mgx by d. Now if you need N1, then better substitute the value of N2 in the equation. So you get N1 plus mgx by d equals to mg. So you get N1 equals to mg times 1 minus x by d. That's the solution. Okay. So the last question before we move on. So here we have a rod of mass m and length l. The rod is supported between a wall and the ground. The ground is rough. But if the ground won't be rough, the rod will simply slide down. Question is, determine the minimum value of mu. Determine the minimum friction coefficient between the rod and the ground so as to keep the rod in equilibrium. So what has to be the minimum value of mu here so that this rod remains in equilibrium? So let's visualize which things are the things which are applying force on this rod. So since the rod is not at all slipping down now, a force of friction must be acting on the rod. And this ground must also be applying a force of normal. And there has to be weight of the rod that can be assumed to be acting on the center of mass. The wall is frictionless. So let's say the wall also applies a normal. So to find the minimum friction coefficient, let's find the forces acting on the rod and visualize all the forces acting on the rod. Normal by the ground, friction by the ground, force of gravity downward, and the force of normal by the wall. So our mission is to find the minimum value of mu. But we know that the rod has to be in equilibrium. For the rod to be in equilibrium, the net force has to be 0. In which direction? All direction. In the vertical direction, we have got two forces, mg and N2. And in the horizontal direction, we have got two forces, N1 and F. If the rod is in equilibrium, then the net force in vertical direction has to be 0 and the net force in horizontal direction has to be 0. So you will say from force balance, N1 has to be equal to F. And another equation you can write from force balance. Balance is that the downward force of gravity mg has to be equals to N2. And the second equation is N2 equals to mg. So these are the two equations we got from the force balance. Now let's write down the equation of torque balance. My simple question is about which point we should write the torque in this case. Sir, you said that when you have hinge, make the equation about the hinge, torque equation. If you do not have the hinge, then make the torque equation about the center of mass. But here there is one special point about which if we make the torque equation, we will be at advantage. If we make the torque equation about the lowest most point, then since both the force of friction and normal by the ground passes through this point, for both of them R is 0 and hence the torque because of both of them has to be 0. So you will say about this lowest most point, you can do the torque because of force of gravity, which will try to turn it anti-clockwise about the lowest most point, balances out the torque because of N1. Now how to write the torque because of mg and N1 about the lowest most point? So sir, about the lowest most point, you need to write the torque of force of gravity. You just need, sir, one thing. What? Length perpendicular. So the force of gravity is mg down. What will be the length perpendicular? This length about the lowest point. How to find this length? Very easy. Half the rod length is L by 2. This angle is theta. So this length, base length, has to be equals to L by 2 cos theta. So the torque of the force of gravity comes out to be mg into L by 2 cos theta. What will be the torque of the force N1? So you will say, sir, again, force times length perpendicular. Extend the line of action of N1. The perpendicular distance is this distance. So extend the line of action of N1. The perpendicular distance is this distance. This distance will be equals to L sine theta. L sine theta. So you will say the anti-clockwise torque due to the weight mg into L by 2 cos theta has to be equals to N1 into L sine theta. Cancelling L and L both the side, you get N1 equals to mg by 2 cos theta by sin theta, which is cot theta. And once you know that N1 equals to mg by 2 cot theta, you can find out friction coefficient. How? Because N1 is equals to F. Let's see. So you will say from the torque balance about the lowest point, the torque of the force of gravity mg into L by 2 sin theta, length perpendicular, equals to N1. Think of the force of N1. Extend the line of action. Distance perpendicular is beta L sin theta. So mg into L by 2 cos theta equals to N1 L sin theta. Cancelling out L and L, you get N1 equals to mg by 2 cot theta. And you know that N1 is same as friction force. So you can write friction force has to be equals to mg by 2 cot theta. And since you are solving for minimum value of mu, the friction force acting here will be the limiting friction force. And we can write the limiting friction force as mu n, and here the normal reaction is n2. So in place of F, you can write mu n2, and in place of n2, you can write mg. So you will say mu n2 equals to mg by 2 cot theta, and n2 equals to mg. Hence mu mg equals to mg by 2 cot theta, and cancelling out mg on both the side, you get beta mu comes out to be equals to cot theta by 2. That's the solution. So this was the last example on mechanical equilibrium. See you guys in next hour. This hour has been stressed a lot. In the next class, in the next hour, we will talk about toppling, angular momentum, and a few questions on torque equals to I alpha. So see you guys in next hour. Bye bye. So that's all for now. See you guys in the next hour.